Well, hello BookTube and AuthorTube especially, because this video is all about you. I'm going to go ahead and give some types of writing advice, but it's going to be treated a little differently from other channels that I have listened to, as I'm going to start a new series of videos on my channel called Writing Lessons Learned from Animation. As you all know, or might know based on my other videos, my background comes from animation. It's what I studied in school, it's what I work in. I'm an artist, I work in games and film and all of those things. And it's amazing how much you need to know about the writing industry in order to make any kind of visual media. And there's a lot of things you can learn from visual media to help you in your writing. So today we're going to start off with the very first lesson. Let's get started. Now, this first lesson I like to call gesture writing. Now, where does this term gesture writing come from? It comes from the term gesture drawing, but it's reapplied to writing. In art, many students, in order to understand the human form and to be able to draw better, study the human body. Much like anatomy students have to study anatomy in order to go do other scientific things. But for art, we study how things interact and move when the person moves and how that all works together. Now, in a gesture, you don't want to capture all of the details. Just like in writing, you don't always want to capture all of the details. It will quickly bore your reader, and eventually you might come to realize that your writing looks a little stiff. Now, why is your writing stiff? Well, much for the same reason many life drawings are stiff. It's because you forgot the gesture. The gesture is the overall flow. It's the overall feeling you want from a specific scene, or in the case of animation, a specific drawing. One of the key aspects of getting your gesture drawing or your gesture writing correct is something called the line of action. This applies both to writing and to drawing, because there are lines in writing and there are lines in drawing. Isn't it cool how that works? Anyway, lines of action in drawing is a way to show a character's movement through a pose. It shows their emotional involvement through their actions, so that by watching them, we can see how they are emotionally feeling. If you go and watch any old cartoons like the Looney Tunes, you're going to tell, based on how those characters are moving, what is going on in their mind. You watch Tom and Jerry, nobody ever talks, but you know what Tom's thinking, you know what Jerry's thinking, you know what the Bulldog's thinking, you know everything that they are feeling because of that line of action you get from the animation, from their expressions, from their body poses, from their movement. Now, the same thing needs to be applied in your writing. Your writing needs to show the movement of a character, not just say he walked. No, you want to say he stuffed his hands in his pocket and paced back and forth, thinking. That gives you an idea of what is this character doing? What's going on in his mind? Are they nervous? Are they deep in thought? Those actions show the character. They show who this person is, more so than just being told he was thinking. You get his body language. That way, your writing doesn't feel as stiff. Same thing in a gesture drawing. If you draw a life drawing, most people go and they detail everything and make it look really nice and rendered and cool and realistic. But when you look at it, you realize that it looks stiff. And it looks stiff because they spent too much time on the details and not enough time getting that line of action, that gesture in there. They lost the emotion in the details. That is not something you want in your writing. Focus on the emotion conveyed through the body language of your characters, through that gesture and their expressions, through their line of action, and forget about simply telling the reader what is happening. You want to explain the emotional impact things are having through the actions the characters are taking. It becomes something that, instead of being a passive voice, something happening to a character, to something that the character is doing Yes, he stuffed his hands in his pocket. Yes, he clenched his fist. Yes, he furrowed his brow. Yes, she smiled and her smile almost touched her ears. Yes, she tripped and caught herself before and hopped up really fast and acted like nothing happened by putting her hands behind her back and looking around to see if nobody's watching. There's so many different ways you can convey how a character acts in different moments by showing us how they act, instead of simply saying, oh, she tripped, or oh, he was angry, or he was thinking. You want to keep the gesture and don't let it get lost in the details. Now, how can you apply this to your writing? How can you make this even deeper than just a single gesture? Well, if you're working through a conversation with characters and one character gets angry at another, you don't just explain that the one character is angry, she furrows her brow, she clenches her fist, she stomps towards the other character. You also want to explain how the other character is reacting emotionally. Are they scared? Are they defiant? Is the person stepping back, or are they holding their ground? What is it that they are doing that conveys the emotion that they feel in reaction to the emotion that is presented by the character who is acting? So there's an act-react cycle, but that doesn't mean that both characters or only one character is active. Both characters can be active at the same time. One can be defiant while the other one is trying to push her or his will on the other character. Or one could be more passive, who steps back and is scared and is ready to be submissive to whatever this angry character wants from them. Now, this can happen in every single type of emotion. It can happen with love. You just want to explain how one character is acting and how the other one is reacting without specifically stating the emotion, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of ways to do that, and I urge you to experiment. Every time you come to a scene, instead of just stating, oh, he said that angrily, I want you to take a moment and explain what that character's body is doing without saying, he said angrily, or she said happily. Try to give that extra detail, and it doesn't have to be very long. One of my first ever exercises in animation back in the day was to create a 4-panel comic. The idea of this was to create 4 separate drawings that showed a progression of a scene without using any type of dialogue. Now, in order to do this successfully, we had to be able to show how a character was feeling and reacting, and how other characters were acting towards that other character if it happened to be a comic with multiple characters, and to be able to convey what was happening without using any dialogue. Now, this could also be pulled over to writing. How do you write a scene effectively? How do you show and not tell? Well, the idea is the same as a 4-panel comic. Take out all of your dialogue and explain the gesture, explain the body poses, explain what's happening without just telling the basis of it. So I don't go and say this character walked towards character B and character B slapped him. No. You want to go and you want to explain the same way you would see in this comic. Character A brushed his feet against the ground, striding slowly towards character B. The shuffling was heard against the leaves on the ground and his shoes against the concrete. His hands were in his pocket and his head was down. He wouldn't dare look up to meet the eyes of character B. When he got close to character B, he felt a slap on his face. Having been slapped, he looked up, his eyes tearing. So something like that. You get more of an emotion. You feel what's happening with that character. You can tell they're shuffling, so they're a little nervous. Their head's down, they don't want to meet the character's eyes, so they might have done something wrong. There's a lot of stuff you're getting from this, and you understand how this person is acting as opposed to just simply telling, oh, he walked up to this person. You're getting his body language. Now, this is something that I urge you guys to look to doing in other ways. Go and watch a TV show. This could be animated or live action, and pause it on any frame and think, what emotion is this character feeling right now? What is his body language? What is her body language? What is its body language if it's like a robot or something? And try to get the emotion that that thing is feeling in the moment. What is happening? You can even go watch things like WALL-E and look at WALL-E. He doesn't ever talk really, but you know exactly what he's feeling. And why? Because they showed it through gesture. They showed his emotion through his actions. You don't have to tell people he was sad. You can easily show it by explaining what is happening with their body. You could also do this looking through comic books or manga or something. You can stop in any panel and think, what is happening here? How would I explain this in a story to where people would understand it? And come up with a very similar image to what I have without overreaching, without adding too many details, without losing that gesture in the details. That's a fun exercise that I think everybody can do, and it will help your writing. Just take some time to do it, and maybe do it as a little exercise before you start writing your NaNoWriMo book again, and see what changes in your writing, what happens. I promise you, it'll make the scenes a lot stronger. You'll feel a lot more from the characters by doing this. And it's an interesting visual way to approach the problem of showing and not telling. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to BookTube and AuthorTube here, is more of an artist, a visual artist's way of writing. How you can go and pull in visual aspects that you see in the world and apply that to make your writing even better. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at YT for YouTube _Evan_writes. I take commissions, art commissions, so if you would like me to draw any of your characters, or if you need a digital painting done, or if you're going to self-publish and you want an awesome book cover, let me know. Hit me up on social media, ask me for my prices based on what your project's going to be, and we can see what we can do from there. Anyway, it was great talking with you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the other side.